If the similarities between the extremist religious evangelist and the scientifically backed ideologue are cause for derision or cause for skepticism, I would say that the differences are cause for concern. Even the most extreme of religious advocates operates within a context wherein there is already a defined relationship between authority and ideology. There is, to wit, an orthodoxy. And to this orthodoxy they must at least pay lip service. Their authority is directly derived from their ability to, however misleadingly, however imperfectly, to invoke the power of the ideological claims of the system within which they are operating. This is not true of the ideologue who's deriving their authority from science, which makes no ideological claims, and yet this person is proposing ideology without even a standard and standardized and recognizable set of moral values that are intrinsically tied to the authority of a given body, of a given organization. Without even this, the person who is appropriating the authority of science and using it to make ethical or moral statements has no accountability. The source of the authority, science, scientific investigation, logic, reason, and all that they produce, does not chiefly concern itself with the validity of ideological claims, and as such will not be in a position to check these claims, will not be in a position to deny these claims, denounce these claims, or deny the claimant the authority that they would wish to use. The second problem is that in the language of this scientifically backed ideology, I find time and time again an appeal towards correction. Once one decides that one is operating from a system of progressive authority on science and its perpetual improvements, rather than invoking the authority of some absolute figure or absolute abstract, then one is necessarily in the range of corrective measure in moral action. The concern that I have here is that unlike punitive measure, and let's actually take a brief moment, and the majority of religious and formal ethical systems that have thus far been proposed or put into practice in human society have largely dealt with punitive, that being the measure of response, either punishment, vengeance, what have you. And most of these systems take punitive action as something of a given in human nature, and from this given they seek to set limitation on the degree of punitive action which one can take with the blessings of this ideology. And this is the essence of the value of the emphasis on punitive action, that it limits reprisal. It sets a limitation on reprisal. Corrective action, there is no such limit. Let's take an example. Let's say that I have taken it upon myself to correct the problem of a person's offensive speech. And within the confines of this experiment, let us say that every time that they swear, I will punch them. I will continue punching them until they stop swearing. The problem here is that, first, their no longer being punched is contingent on my success in my endeavor. Second, there is no point at which I will just naturally cease this process, short of success. In this way, it is entirely possible, and again dependent on my rate of success, even likely, that the damage that I will inflict in the process of correcting this problem will vastly outweigh the damage that would have been caused if the problem had been ignored, or if the problem had been dealt with punitively. Now, my punching someone for swearing is kind of a silly example, but let us consider instead perhaps the problem of theft. How far are we willing to go? How far can we go in the process of rehabilitating a thief into a person who does not steal? Under a punitive system of punishment, this person would receive punishment, fines, imprisonment, labor assignment, what have you, in some way that is societally deemed commensurate with the nature of their crime and the degree of damage that they caused. Under a corrective system, on the other hand, treatment, whatever treatment may involve, will continue until this person is no longer inclined to steal. Under a corrective system of morality, the degree of social response to a crime, to an injustice, to a wrong, is not contingent on the person who has committed the wrong, wherein a person commits a certain degree of crime, does a certain amount of damage, and they receive a certain amount of reprisal, but is rather directly linked to the society's ability to effectively correct the problem. Should this society be relatively ineffective at correcting the problem present, and as we have seen, most of our investigations into criminal psychology, rehabilitative therapy, so on and so forth, were very inept at reliably treating a person who is inclined to cause harm to others. In this case, the degree of punishment that is received is directly proportionate to our ineptitude, and as such, a person committing a crime is not held accountable to the nature of their own crime, but is rather punished according to our inability to prevent them from committing that crime.